So we have a new president. Donald Trump was sworn in January 20th as the 45th president of the United States. And I have to say, watching the left's response to Trump's inauguration, we sure did dodge a bullet. Can you imagine the right acting this way had Hillary Clinton been elected president? Look at what was going on in the lead up to Trump's inauguration. You had a whole band of leftist anarchists coming together, promising, vowing to do whatever it took to stop the inauguration, to disrupt the parade, to keep Donald Trump from taking office. They didn't care how they made that message clear. They were even calling for violence in the streets and so forth. And that's exactly what we got. I'm sure you saw some of the videos of the protesters in downtown Washington, D.C. On one side of town, you had elegance, grace, decorum, dignity, while the inauguration process was ongoing. And just a few blocks away, you had chaos, thuggery, violence, screaming. And this is all from the left. There were cars set on fire. There were business windows beat out by thugs. There were smoke bombs thrown. There were stormings against police. There was screaming, shouting, waving of signs, anything anti-Trump, any message that the left could get out to show their hatred of Trump, they sure went for. And in the lead up to the inauguration, we also saw celebrities use their platforms and podiums to call pretty much for the same thing. My favorite was Rosie O'Donnell, who years ago, as you might remember, had her own talk show. A talk show during which she was dubbed the Queen of Nice because she came across as so nice on TV. Well, those days are long gone. The new Rosie, it seems, is one far less nice. She took to Twitter in the lead up to Trump's inauguration, and she even asked then President Obama to declare martial law in order to keep Trump from taking over the White House. In her logic, her way of thinking, martial law would have put a 30-day hold on who would take over the White House office, giving those on the left enough time to bring forward Senator John McCain into the position, and then also during which Donald Trump could be tried for treason. Those are Rosie's words. That's her vision, her logic, not mine. But seriously, this is what the left thinks, that the Constitution doesn't matter, rule of law counts for nothing, and that their desires and wills, just because they have loud mouths, are supposed to guide how America's political system is governed. That's just crazy. And the lunacy was out in full force on Inauguration Day, like I said. But the day after inauguration wasn't that much better. We saw tens of thousands of women from all over the country descend upon Washington, D.C. for their famous Women's March on D.C. Now, on social media and what the left would present it as, this march was supposed to be for equality and justice and equal rights between the genders. But what it turned out to be, and I think most of us watching this being built up already knew this was what was going to happen. What it turned out to be was just a Trump bashing event. If you looked at some of the video feeds coming out of that march, everybody, it seemed, carried a sign saying down with Trump. There were chants, get rid of Trump, down with Trump, Trump is a racist, Trump is a sexist, Trump is a misogynist, Trump is every negative name you can think of. And this gleaned from one day of Trump being in the White House. This is the problem with the left. They want all the concessions. They throw words out like tolerance and justice and equality. But what they really mean is you must think like me. If you don't think like someone on the left, then you're intolerant, you're racist, you're bigoted, and so forth, yada, yada. It's the same over and over for years. The thing I don't get, though, is that they are so open about it. You know, the media has their backs, it seems. And the thing that is most odd is that, remember, all this anti-Trump rhetoric, all this anti-Trump campaigning and rallies and protests went forth before the guy even set foot day one in office. And seriously, what has Trump said that is just so awful that would warrant all this mass hatred? If you look at his inaugural speech alone, the things he said struck me as patriotic, American, things that we should all like. As a matter of fact, if you could criticize Trump's speech for one thing, if you're a conservative, if you're a Christian, you might be able to find fault that it was too populist. But those on the left should have welcomed some of his points. Remember his speech? Here's some excerpts, just a few lines that Trump said that I think should have drawn in all types of people from all backgrounds, all political beliefs. He said, for example, what really matters is not which party controls the government, but whether the government is controlled by the people. And then he said this, the wealth of our middle class has been ripped from their home and redistributed all across the world. But that is the past. And now we are looking only to the future. And then he said this, the oath of office which I take today is an oath of allegiance to all Americans. Or this, we will follow two simple rules, buy American and hire American. Now that one should have been a hat tip to the unions alone, which are largely left. Here's another one, which I can't imagine why the left would hate. Whether we are black or brown or white, we all bleed the same red blood of patriots. How can you find fault with that? And this last one, this one is my particular favorite. Most importantly, we will be protected by God. Now, how can you look at those statements? How can you listen to what Trump said and find fault with that? You know, you can choose not to believe that he's going to go forward with the Make America Great type messaging that drove him to the top on the campaign trail. You can choose to believe that things like demanding law and order on the border is code for discriminate against minorities. It's not, but that's your choice to believe. You can choose to believe that national security policy that's rooted in actually naming the enemy as radical Islamic terrorism is somehow discriminatory against Muslims. You can choose to believe whatever you want. But what you should not be able to choose in this nation of law, order, and constitutional governance is to go out and wreak havoc on properties and people just because you're unhappy with election results. It strikes me as this biblical principle at play in America these days. It's from Isaiah 5, and it reads this way. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe to those who are wise in their own eyes and shrewd in their own sight. Isn't that what's happening in America today? And don't you think it's time we put a stop to it as Christians and patriots? We all have voices. We all have the power to speak up when we see thuggery like what went on in Washington, D.C., when we hear lies like the media put forth during Donald Trump's campaign. And that is likely going to continue in the days to come, in the weeks and months to come. Expect Donald Trump's 4 years in office to be marked by lies from the left. So how about we take our biblical knowledge and combine it with our voices? Take our Christian, patriotic, strong, bold voices and fight back against the progressive atheist voices that want to take over, take root, and usurp our rule of law way of governing. We can put a stop to it. I say let's take a stand for Jesus in a land of darkness. Join me. And if you like this video, come visit me at CherylChumley.com for the latest news and updates. Thanks for listening.